each time you hear something awful like this, you wrap your children up even more because we don't want them to be harmed in any way.
I was reading some article the other day, and I can't remember the exact statistic, but it was something like 88% of children now see life through a car window because we constantly ferry them from one place to another. So maybe when we were kids, our mum would go, oh, you know, see you later, off you go and play. And we don't allow that anymore. And, of course, it's stories like this and the McCanns and lots of other stories that make us very risk-averse. I try very hard not to be. My husband is the polar opposite, and one of the biggest sources of argument between us. My daughter went on a school trip recently to Paris, and it was right after the Charlie Hebdo attacks. And my husband was like, well, obviously she's not going. And I went, well, of course she's going. It's a school trip. All her friend, well, I don't want her to go. And we ended up having this big argument. And I said, there's terrorist attacks everywhere. You can't live your life like that. And, of course, off she went. But the whole week I was like, oh, my God, please don't let anything happen, because I know that would be the end of our marriage. You know,
well, Eamon's exactly the same. I'm sure I've had this conversation with Jane before. Eamon's exactly like Gary. And Jack's first school trip, it was just after that awful coach trip with the kids from Belgium. They were coming back from a school trip and both coaches crashed. And he and I had been arguing for 2 weeks about whether Jack was going on this trip to France. And I was going, yes, he is. No, he's not. Yes, he is. And I said, all his friends are going. And he phoned me. And I just got this phone call and he said, have you seen the news? I went, yes. He went, and you're still sending our son on a coach tomorrow? I went, yes, I am. And he just went, well, on your head be it. Put the phone down. Yes. Yeah. And because he, you know, he's really always worried about school trips. But, you know, you just think you only hear, I kept saying to you, but you only hear about the awful things that happen, not the thousands and thousands of school trips that go off without a hit.
I mean, I'm more like Eamon, I think. I'm the worrier. I do wrap my kids in cotton wool a little bit. I can't help it. Probably more so with my son, to be perfectly honest, and more so as he's got older. He's now 19, he'll be 20 at the end of this week, which makes me feel really old. But, you know, now he's started obviously going out with his friends and stuff at the weekends and things, and they go out into Liverpool or wherever they go, and I'm just terrified that something's going to happen because, and probably because he's a guy. You know, I think there's a lot of, like, fights and things, you know, that go on, and you just, you know, half the time it's not even them that are involved, they become embroiled in someone else's, you know, fight.
But I do think it's because it's reported so much now. Like you said, it's not reported, well, actually, this nightclub tonight, nothing happened. It's always the one where something happened and it's always terrible, and it's the same with school trips. And absolutely, I think if we could all get away with it, thinking our kids would love us forever, you'd wrap them in bubble wrap and go, you're not going out ever till you're married, you know.
But I have a friend who's completely unapologetic about the wrapping up in cotton wool. You know, she takes her children always, you know, I drive them here, I'll wait for them, I'll pick them up. You know, she'll probably still be doing that when they're 20.
I was about to say, when does that stop?
They've got to learn, though,
yeah, but I would say that to her, and she said to me, I don't want them to be that statistic. I don't want them to be that one.
They never learn a coping mechanism for dealing with a problem
emergency or, that moment where they do need to know what they're doing. But also, do you think it's worse now? I do, because of the whole mobile thing. Because, like you said, when we were kids, I'd leave the house at 7 in the morning. Mum would say, right, you remember dinner's on the table at 6. Be home at 6, and if you weren't, you know, your life wasn't worth living. But I don't think she worried then till 6.
No.
Whereas my kids go out at, you know, midday, and if I go, are you there yet? And they don't text me back instantly, I'm a lunatic. I'm like, you better answer this phone. I swear to God, when you get home, it's only 12:15.
It must be like for your son's
and he's 26.
Yeah, if your son's with his mates, every second their phone's beeping. It's like,
I can't tell you the amount of texts I get from Shane Jr., who is 27 this year, who goes, Cole, get a grip.
It's true. I'm the same with David, and he's like, you know, I go, make sure you text me when you get there. Make sure I need to have a text during the night. And he's like, oh my, you know, checking in with him. I think it's about getting the balance, because although I do worry, I do still obviously let him. He's a man; he can do what he wants. But I do, you know, still kind of accept that they have to go and do their things. But it's like still.
I do think we're our own worst enemies sometimes, because we'll go, well, I don't want you doing that, and then we'll go, will you get off that computer? Or will you stop watching that television?
In my day, we were out all day.
Exactly.
And go, well, and they go, let me out.
I want to go out and you won't let me. Exactly.
I was out on my bike. Well, you won't buy me a bike in case I fall off it.
Did you see this one today? I love this.
But yeah, I totally agree.
There's one of them. Ooh!
Which I find patronising to start off with. I think it's empowering. I think it's inspiring.
It's just part of every day.
We've got loads there. That's a good show. That's a good show.
The discussion starts here. Loose Women, weekdays at 12:30.